Right about now, push the button and read the instructions. What? Alright.
For video press 1, for food press 2, for lights press 3, for fight press me, for bass press 4, for vocals press 5, for drums press 6, for read press my lyrics.
Right about now, push the button and read the instructions. What? Alright.
Go mad like a machine when you plug it in. Kiss that sound like your mama.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? This is Brendan Bias from Retouching.com, and welcome to another Photoshop tutorial. Now, for this week's tutorial, I'm going to be going over a lot of stuff, and most of it is geared towards people that are a little bit newer to Photoshop. But if you happen to be someone that's watching this and you're already pretty experienced with the software, go ahead and watch the video anyway, because there might be a few tips and tricks that you might not have thought of before that you would like to try on your own photos and whatnot. So let me give you a little bit of a rundown of what it is we are going to be creating. So we're going to take a photo. In this case, it's going to be a picture of Eli and Lisa, which, by the way, you'll be able to download from our website if you want to follow along. So look in the description for a link to that. And what we're going to be doing is an overall cleanup and, kind of an airbrush effect onto this photo here. So let me show you a quick little step-by-step of what it is we'll be doing. First of all, we're going to go through a little bit of cleanup for the imperfections, acne, and blemishes of the skin. So you can see there's just a couple of things to fix up, which is nice and quick and easy. And after that, we're going to get into some airbrushing. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it is simply put a smoothing of the skin to make it look like it's flawless and perfect, just all that fancy mumbo jumbo that goes on in a lot of modeling photos. So that should be kind of fun to go through. And after that, I'm going to show you guys how to add some very quick and easy shading onto someone's face to kind of help it pop a little bit, and it also helps out with bringing out the eyes. So something that should be pretty cool for you guys to learn. And then just to top it off, I'm going to very quickly go over how to add this very warm, somewhat vintage-looking color correction on top of it using curves and some vignettes and whatnot. So there's a whole lot to go through today. So what do you say? Well, actually, let's do a really quick before and after just to show you guys the overall effects that we'll be creating. And now that you've seen it, let's get into the tutorial. So open up the picture that it is you want to edit. You can use this one from our website, or you can use one of your own, completely up to you. And the first thing we're going to do is create a duplicate of this background layer by hitting Control or Command J on the keyboard. And let's just rename this to something like Cleanup. Nice and straightforward. So, to clean up skin is actually a very easy process. The first thing you'll want to do is kind of zoom in onto the face here, just so you get a better look at what it is that you'll be editing and whatnot. And if you don't have this option enabled, if you hit Control K, I believe, yeah, that's it. So Control or Command K brings up your preferences. And you can turn on zoom with scroll wheel, which makes it really easy to zoom in and then, clean up some acne. And then holding the space bar, you can navigate to another part of the face, clean up, blah, blah, blah. So just a little something that will help you guys navigate around your photos while you're doing this step, all right? Okay, so first thing we're going to be doing is going to the left-hand side, and we're going to use the Spot Healing Brush tool, all right? And there are two ways for you to go about using this on your picture. You can use it by using the proximity match or the content aware. For the most part, content aware works pretty well. So I'm going to have that selected. Go choose a spot to get rid of. And my rule of thumb is I usually try to make the brush roughly the same size as the blemish or random spot that I want to get rid of. So one thing that I can do to size up and size down my brush is to use the right bracket key and the left bracket key respectively. So I'm simply going to make my brush roughly the same size as this, and I'll click and drag until I have the entire spot here selected and let go, and voila, that spot's gone. So just click on all these random little spots that you want to get rid of. depending on how much time you have, you can just go through and maybe even get rid of some of the little like hairs that are left over from a bad shaving. I'm not dissing on you, Eli. I did it too. I did my own picture earlier the other day, and I was like, I got all this facial hair that I apparently didn't get shaving. So, just a thought out there. You guys can like go in, get really detailed with all these like little spots and stuff. But the things that you want to focus on most would probably be these little blemishes and stuff. Obviously, like kind of these little acne spots, stuff like that. No one's face is really ever going to be perfect. I mean, there might be like one or two people in the entire world that have, completely flawless skin. But you're just going to end up cleaning up these kind of things at some point or another. Okay, so guys, I just want to show you something real quick here. You'll notice that when I tried to fill in this area, it kind of filled it in with something that didn't look so good the first time around. But if you do like a Control Z to undo and just kind of go back over it, it might do something a little bit better. That time it didn't. So one thing that you guys can do to get into these hard to reach places that have stuff around it, which is making the repair a little bit splotchy or doesn't look too smooth. One way to get around that is to go over to the left hand side, click and hold on the icon for the spot healing brush, and we can move on down to the patch tool or the healing brush tool. Both of them will work. Let's try the patch tool real quick. With the patch tool, you can simply click and drag and make a selection around the spot that you want to, fix up, and then click and drag that selection to a clear patch of skin, let go, and it'll kind of use that area to fill in the selection that you made. And this is something that I also kind of like to want to do on this side over here, just because we're right next to a random dark splotch of hair. So I can just click and drag, kind of fix that up a little bit. It's not that great, actually. So maybe this time around we can go and swap to our healing brush tool. Now, the way the healing brush tool works is that you sample another part of the picture. So to do that, we'll hold down the Alt key or the Option key for on a Mac and go and click on an area that is relatively clean and blemish free. So maybe over in this area. And then you can go over and paint that area in, and what it's doing is it's sampling from that area that you clicked off to the side over there. Now, unfortunately, it kind of did like a random like dark splotch, so maybe I'll try somewhere a little bit different and try again. It's not really doing exactly what I want, so maybe what I'll do, let's grab the brush tool real quick, and let's sample a little bit of skin. And let's go to the blend mode and set it to color and just see how it goes. Of course, with a lower opacity, maybe like 40%. And let's just see if we can simply color in that other skin color. So that just makes it a little bit less red. Not too bad looking. So whatever. It looks pretty decent from afar anyway. So who gives a crap, right? So anyway, just spend however much time you want going through cleaning up these little random like spots, and try not to overlap where the creases in the skin are from the smiling, stuff like that. Might have to do things a couple of times if it doesn't work the first time around, stuff like that. So like I said, just spend however much time you want here. I'm going to go through real quickly and just kind of continue fixing up random little splotches on Eli and Lisa, so I'll be back in just a second.
Alright.
Alright, so I just went through and, finished up a little bit more spots here and there. Might have gone a little bit overboard, done a few more things that I didn't really need to do, but if you just turn off the cleanup layer and turn it back on, you can see how much I was able to get rid of in just a few short minutes there. It didn't really take all that long. And one more thing that we can do while we're cleaning up, skin and whatnot, is we can actually go in and brighten up and clean up the teeth a little bit. A lot of the time, you'll probably end up with someone that has pretty yellow teeth. Luckily, Eli and Lisa are really good at brushing their teeth, and they're pretty white. The only reason they even look remotely yellow right now is simply because of white balance, the lighting that's bouncing off of them, stuff like that. And the way we go about cleaning these up is very nice and simple. So go to the left-hand side and open up the sponge tool, which you can find by hitting the letter O, or Shift O will probably be what you need to cycle through all the tools there. So what you can do with the sponge tool is set the mode to desaturate. So basically, whenever you click and drag the sponge tool over an area, it kind of desaturates it a little bit. And if you keep clicking and dragging over that spot, it'll just keep making it more and more and more desaturated. And the way you make it desaturate it slower is to set the flow to a lower percent. So if I had this down at something crazy like 5%, and then I tried to desaturate all this, it takes a much longer time for it to finally make it look like it's black and white. So, setting the flow to something like 30 or 40%, very simply, just kind of zoom in on the teeth and just kind of do a bit of a once-over on the teeth here. You don't really have to spend that much time on it because the sponge tool is going to desaturate this really quickly, and there really isn't a whole lot to desaturate on these guys' teeth. So props to Eli and Lisa. You guys have very white teeth. Haha. See, I'm being nice, right? Okay. So like I said, we don't have to spend too much time. Just a quick little click and drag, going back and forth for a split second. And voila. So maybe we can do a before and after. Maybe not. I did a sponge tool a lot. But either way, there is a bit of a difference there between where it was before. There we go. We can just... It's probably a little bit hard for you guys to see on your screen, but I can tell that there is a noticeable difference in how yellow the teeth are when I'm turning off and turning on the cleanup layer. Now, one more thing we can do to kind of help the teeth out a little bit is to give them a little bit of a bit of a polish, if you would say. Let me show you what I mean. Let's go to the left-hand side and swap over to the dodge tool. And with this, we'll have the range set to midtones and the exposure at about 10%. For those of you that don't know, the dodge tool is a way to click and drag to brighten up an area. So we're going to be using that to our advantage, to brighten up the teeth. So like we did before, just very, very quickly go through, click and drag on each of these teeth here, just to give it a very slight bit of brightening. We don't want to go too overboard because then it will look really fake. So that was the before and after. You can notice that we just did a very slight amount of brightening there. So just to help bring it out just a little bit. And we'll do the same thing for Eli too, because why not? He's got a pretty good smile that we can work with. And let's just really quickly go through. Might size up the brush for the larger teeth up front. And there we go. So that's just a quick way to clean up the teeth, make them look a little bit whiter and brighter. That rhymed. And so what do you say we move on to actually airbrushing? So let's make a duplicate of the cleanup layer with Control or Command J. And we're going to name this smoothing. And here's what we're going to do for this. Let's go to Filter, go to Blur, go to Surface Blur. And here's what we're going to do. Put the threshold all the way up to the maximum, which is 255 levels. And then mess with the radius until you get a slightly blurred out picture. So we're going to go, let's try somewhere around here this time. So you can kind of make out the faces still, but they're still pretty dang blurry. All right, so now let's bring down the threshold quite a lot. Let's go into the 60s here. And you're going to mess with this until there's a nice balance between having everything kind of blurred and still kind of preserving some of the contours of the face. So let's bring down the threshold even more, just so that way we get a clearer picture. And see, this is a little bit more what we're aiming for, but maybe I'll bump up the threshold, bring down the radius a touch, see what it looks like, and I think we're getting somewhere pretty decent. So let's hit OK, and let that apply. It's probably going to take a second just because I'm recording this video. It's sucking up my RAM a little bit. But after it's done, we should have a pretty, overdone effect that we need to bring some detail back into. So let's go to the cleanup layer, duplicate that again with Control or Command J, rename this as Details, and bring it up top right above Smoothing. And for this part, I'm going to be going to Filter, Other, High Pass, and I'm going to be adjusting the high pass filter in a way that lets me see just the right amount of detail for the photo. So from far away, I could amp this up quite a bit, but if you're looking inside of this window in the high pass filter, you'll notice that there's getting like a really odd amount of ghosting going on. So you need to find a balance between what's happening, up close and how it looks from afar. I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense, but either way, just kind of play with the radius until you can kind of see the detail from your, preferred distance without there being a whole lot of weirdness going on up close. Because, maybe someone's going to end up looking at the full resolution picture. I don't know. Completely up to you. Personally, I'm going to put it back down to somewhere between 3 and 4 because I want people to be viewing my picture from afar, and there's not going to be a whole lot of detail that I want them to be seeing. So let's hit OK, apply that, and set the blend mode to hard light. And if you turn off and turn on the detail, you'll see that it brings back some of those fine details in the hair, the eyes, stuff like that. And now what we want to do is kind of get rid of this smoothing because it's being applied to everything and it just looks, unrealistic. So let's select both the details and the smoothing layers off to the right-hand side, put it into a group by hitting Control or Command G, and we're just going to call this Airbrush. And now we need to apply a black layer mask on top of this so that it hides the effect entirely. So to do that, hover your mouse over the layer mask icon at the bottom of the layers panel, and then click it while holding the Alt or the Option key, depending on whether you're on a PC or on a Mac. Okay, so this part is a little bit fun. Bring up your brush tool by hitting the letter B. Set your brush opacity to somewhere like 50, 40, maybe even 30%. And we're going to paint in white on this layer mask to start revealing the airbrushed layers inside of it. So I'm going to start with Lisa because it's a little bit more noticeable when you start bringing back the airbrushing. So I'm just going to click and drag around the areas that I want the airbrushing to be applied, and you'll slowly notice a change happening to the skin depending on how much airbrushing or how much blurriness you applied to the skin in the earlier steps. So very slowly start clicking and dragging and bringing in that smoothness of the skin there. So I really focus on the cheeks, the nose, the forehead, the chin. I get a little bit into the lips, but sometimes it doesn't look so great, so I just kind of leave it there. And it might be a good idea to step back and turn off and turn on the airbrush layer just to see what it's starting to look like, so maybe you can make some adjustments. But I think it looks pretty good right now. So let's go over to Eli and start applying that airbrush to him. Okay, so once again, I'm going to take a quick step back, turn it off, turn it on, see how it's starting to look. And I think it's pretty decent overall. Not perfect by any means, but it definitely gets the job done. I'll focus a little bit more on the cheeks and the bridge of the nose and the forehead real quick. And I think we are starting to look pretty decent here. So before and after, it really smooths out all of those details on the face. So something that I like to do, just because it kind of blends the airbrushing with the original skin, is I like to lower the opacity of the airbrush to maybe 80 or 90%, somewhere in that range, just so that way it is a combination between the original and the airbrushing, just to give it a little bit more of a natural feeling to it. So now that we've got the airbrushing done, what do you say we add in some highlights and shadows to kind of help emphasize little bits and parts of the face and the eyes? So let's make a new layer, and we're going to name this shading. And we need to fill this in with a 50% gray. So let's do Shift Backspace on our keyboard, and that should bring up our fill dialog. And we're going to use 50% gray with the mode set to normal at 100% opacity. And we'll click OK. And we're going to set this to a blend mode of soft light. Okay? So, on this layer, make sure you're still on your brush tool. But this time, set the mode to normal. And we'll set the opacity to about, let's do 10%. And make sure that your foreground color is set to white. And start very slowly adding little bits of white onto this layer, where you want there to be kind of a highlight. So I like to add just a little bit of a spot of light to like the upper parts of the cheeks here. So I'll do it one on each side, something like that. And maybe we'll do a little bit on the nose just to see how that looks. Okie dokie. And I'll do the same thing for Eli as well. Just kind of add a couple clicks while sizing down the brush, just to add an interesting little highlight on the cheek there. And let's kind of brighten up over here as well. And something that you can do while you're doing this is you can use the letter X to switch between the white and the black foreground color, just so that way if you need to, you can kind of brighten or darken any areas as you choose. One more thing that I like to do is to add a bit of a shadow where the neck meets the jaw in the picture, and then add a little bit of a highlight on the jaw itself. And that just creates a little bit of a contrast between the face and the neck, just so that way there's that distinguishing trait between the two. And I'll show you as well on Lisa. Let's just do very, very subtle shadow, and then we'll also do a bit of that highlight there. And so you can see how that's starting to look here. Whoops. And it just adds a little bit of an interesting, just an interesting feeling from my point of view. And another thing that I like to do is to use this same kind of technique on the eyes. So I'll zoom in a lot onto Lisa's right eye here. And what we're going to do is we're simply going to click and drag to darken up her eyeliner a little bit. Now, the purpose here is to create a contrast between the eye and the eyelid itself. So if you want to, you can kind of like darken up some of the eyelashes and whatnot, and also add one line of shading right below the eye. And we'll also kind of brighten up the whites of her eyes. So I'll click and drag quite a few times to brighten it up. And I'll also try and brighten up the pupil, or not the pupil, but the iris. There we go. And we kind of need to darken up the actual pupil, so we'll just kind of darken that up. And one last thing, I'll also add a quick little bit of highlight on the upper eyelid, so somewhere like that. And let me zoom out and let me show you the before and after for that eye there. And you can see there's just a tremendous difference in contrasting. It really makes it pop quite a bit. So let's go ahead and do the same thing for the other eye real quick. Just click and drag a couple of times. Brighten up the other eye. Darken up the pupil. Let's darken up some eyelashes and some mascara. Darken up the under portion of her eye. And then we'll also brighten up right above it. And then once again, before and after, you can see that there is a tremendous difference. However, I did kind of miss the little ends of her eyelashes there. So let's go ahead and fix that up. Alright, so we can also do the same thing for Eli. Let me do this real quick. Alright, so take a step back and do before and after. Very bright, very fun. Alright, so let's just see how this looks from afar. I think it's pretty sweet. It might be a little bit too much on this cheek over here. So I can either brighten around it, or I can darken it with black, you know, or just something like that. Maybe I'll just keep it like that. Yeah, it looks pretty decent. So, one more thing is left to do here, and that is to create the color correction on top of all this. So, I'm going to go ahead and add in a curves adjustment layer. And the way I like to do this is I like to take the black point on the bottom left-hand corner of this axis here, and I like to bring it up just a couple of notches. It doesn't have to be overly up there, but you know, you should be able to see quite a bit of a difference here. And then I'll also kind of bring back down some of these midtones a little bit, just so that way they're a little bit more towards where they would normally be. And then I'll go back towards the very end of the highlights, and I'll bring those up just a little bit. So we have this kind of weird sideways mountain formation that we kind of got going on here. And in order to make this look like a little bit warmer is pretty simple. Just go to the RGB and change that to the red channel. And we'll bring up the midtones of the reds just a little bit. Doesn't have to be overly dramatic there. And then go back into the blues and bring down the blues, which will add in a touch of yellow. So we'll have red and yellow coming together to make a slight orange, which is kind of cool. Now, as for the vignettes, I've already made a video on an action pack that I made to add in vignettes. So I'll just add in one regular vignette at an opacity of 50%, and then I can add in the orangish vignettes on top of that just to add a cool orangey hue to the vignette. So take a look at what it is that we have finally created. It took us a little while to get to this point, but there were quite a few little things to do here and there. That's all I've got for you guys for this tutorial. I hope you guys were able to learn something new. And just to throw this out there, the whole airbrushing thing was gleaned from another tutorial that I saw elsewhere. I'll provide a link to the description, so props to those guys on that. I just thought it would be kind of cool to incorporate into an overall photo retouching and airbrushing effect. So again, hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. If you enjoyed it and whatnot, just give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, all that great stuff. And don't forget to stick around till the end of the video for the favorite comments. And that's all I have for you guys for today, so I will see you next week. Peace out.
Alright.